Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the vlog. So, in today's episode, it is D-Day. Now what do I mean by that? Well, it's a day that I've got to marry the gearbox to the engine, the new engine, and then put it onto my lift by myself with no help. I've got no one to help me. Everyone is out of town and needs to get it done today. So it's going to be a challenge. That's like 400 kilos of weight by myself, and I'm no He-Man. How are we going to get on with that? Let's go and watch the episode. Okay, gearbox day. So we're going to clean the gearbox up before we put it together. Now, don't judge me, because we are going to be using something that some may disagree with to clean. Yes, we're using the oven cleaner. Now, often is the case, oven cleaner is not recommended on aluminium bits because it can eat away the aluminium. But what we're going to do is we're going to literally shower this with this, then clean it down, and then remove it straight away. So in comparison to the way this gearbox looks now, this is going to be the easiest way and the most effective way to clean it. This is a bit that I did earlier, and as you can see, this and that both cleaned using oven cleaner, and these have been left for a week, and as you can see, there's no damage. So we'll do that, get it clean, and then we'll be able to reassemble the gearbox. So we're going to use a wire brush for this to get in through all these little areas, and I've got a number of brushes. We'll foam it up, clean it up, and then we'll pressure washer it off. We'll avoid this area here to keep it as dry as we can, and we'll block up this, which is where the jack where the pins goes in for the gearbox, which has got some oil in, so we do have to clear that off, but we'll make sure that's clear. Right, let's get on with it. Right, so this little bit here, this is our spigot, and that goes in the middle over here. So what we'll do is we'll put this in place, and then we'll tap it in so that it sits nice and square, and then that will help us. I'll tap this in place now, and then we'll be ready to put the gearbox in. This I've been waiting for about 2 weeks. I got this OEM from TTS, £13 online, 30 quid. Well, you can get some from £8, but after postage is about £24. But I paid £13 for TTS. Just goes to show, if you go to the main agents to get the OEM parts, you will be pleasantly surprised often and find that these bits are a lot cheaper OEM than they are second hand on eBay. It seems that people on eBay nowadays are trying to profiteer from the fact that it's an easy place to locate parts. But anyway, £13, bargain. And as quick as that, nice and easily inserted and square. Okay, gearbox time. Okay, so gearbox is now back and clean, as you can see. It's looking much better. No grease on that whatsoever. Well, there is a little bit, but hey, it looks much better than it did, and it's always good. I always like to, if I get the opportunity to get this far into a car, to get the gearbox and all the engine clean, because as I always say, it's easier to spot leaks and deal with them rather than a grubby, messy gearbox with a whole lot of oil. You don't know where to start. So now we've got this good base to start from. We can now join these two together. So let's get that done. So that is now together. Remarkably, it went together very easily, and I had the same scenario when I did my my S3, when I put that gearbox back together, and that went together easy. And I thought to myself, is this really together? But it's joined and the gaps are fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the bolts in now to secure it up, and then I guess we'll start to think about how we're going to get this engine onto here, because I really want to assemble it on here, but that's a hefty weight. I don't have a hoist. Normally I'll just hoist it into place and it'll be so much easier, but we don't have that. So I'm gonna have to think of something very creative to creative way of doing that. I haven't hunch how I'm going to do that, but let's put the bolts in together and first, and then we'll have a stab at it. Right, after about an hour, I finally got the engine onto my table. All I can tell you is this: do not ever try to do this without a hoist and by yourself. Unfortunately, I had no one available to help me today, so I had to do this by myself, and I had to get it done. So there it is. Now we can finally assemble this engine while it's in place and in situ. Gearbox is all attached, as you can see. There's a couple of bolts I still need to do underneath when we need to attach some of these attachments, but now having it up on this table makes it so much easier to do. But it was really sketchy. I had to balance it on blocks, etc., and just would not recommend it. Get a hoist, get the proper equipment. I just didn't have the time to do this, and it would have meant that you would have gone without a video. And I'm trying to get this car up and running as soon as possible, but it looks good anyway. I'm glad we've got to this stage. Now I can really motor on and start assembling all the bits. So the next thing we need to do is we need to put the bracket on for the gearbox down there to attach it. We'll then get the turbo fitted. Now I just need to make sure we got all of the washers for the turbos, because it's important that we have those. We've got those bolts in place, but we need to ensure that we've got all the washers, and I think it's 2 per bolt, so we'll get that sorted. Yeah, we can literally now just start to assemble the car. But oh my goodness, that was really sketchy, and like I said, do not try to do that by yourself. Right, let's carry on. So before we start working on the back, we're going to work on the front. Okay, so we're going to put the condenser back on for the AC, and we're going to put the alternator on as well, along with the drive belt to go with that, and the tensioner. So the tensioner is around somewhere. Where were you? Here we go. So here's our tensioner. So we'll get all that back up together, and then next week we'll start looking at the back. But there is something that we need to take a look at inside there. We'll take a look at that shortly. Let's deal with our ancillary parts first. So there we go. So the fan, it's not a fan belt, it's a drive belt. That's gone back on. This tensioner wheel is the better of the two. I've got two, but the other one is a little bit loose, whereas this one is stiff, which means that it's been replaced at some point, which is good. So that's all back on and all good to go. Now let's turn our attention to the inlet valves, because we have a wee bit, not a problem, but a job that we can do now that needs to be done. So as you know, this is a direct injection engine, so the injectors are down here and they go into the combustion chamber, and that gives a more efficient burn. The problem with that is that these valves here don't get fuel injected in them, which often keeps them clean, and as a result the valves look like this, all choked up. Now this occurs actually from around 10,000 miles, but this being a 60,000 mile engine, as you can see, it's pretty bad. Let me see if we can get you in closer to have a closer look. Okay, so I'll probably show a picture of it on screen actually, but difficult to show when you got a camera in front of you. But yeah, it's pretty bad, so it needs to be done. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to walnut blast the cylinders. We'll do that in the next episode, because when you walnut blast them, you do get them really clean, and now's the perfect time to do that with the engine out of play. You can see that plate there is really bad. It's just basically, this is what happens to direct injection engines, and with good fuel, even with good fuel, it still doesn't solve the problem. So ideally you need to do this every 60k or so. We're not going to worry about that. Yeah, so every 60k or so you should really do this on your car, and it's just a sign of the times. Do you know what, I could spend 20 minutes doing that. Right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to de-choke, walnut blast this, and I'll show you the kit that I've bought next week, and we'll get those valves looking nice and clean. Once we get that done, we'll get the turbo installed, and then I think we are about ready to get the engine. Here's a turbo. There's a couple of pipes that I need to replace, like this one here, and we need to get some valves, some washers as well. So we'll get all that sorted for next week, and then we'll get this all installed. So the rebuild is definitely coming together. We're making some fine progress. The main one is that it's now on the workbench and ready to roll. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, but I think we're doing well. Whew. Well, we got it done, and I am so pleased, because that could have gone so many different ways, but rest assured, even though it was not the best, and I certainly wouldn't recommend doing that by yourself, basically what I did was I had blocks of wood and I jacked it up to a certain point, put another block underneath it, jacked up the gearbox end, higher block, jacked it up again until it was the same height of the trolley. Then I removed the mat, slid the trolley underneath it, and then basically jacked and lowered until there was enough of the engine and the gearbox on to allow me to slide it. It did take 3 attempts though, but eventually we got it on there. Certainly wouldn't recommend doing that, but it worked. Now the reassemble can begin in earnest. So we've got the alternator, and we've got the condenser on place, and we've got the fan belt as well. It's not a fan belt, it's a drive belt. It's not a fan belt. Fans don't have belts anymore. It is a drive belt. So next week we'll be using some walnut blaster to clean out that cylinder, because I'm not going to take the head apart. We'll use some walnut cleaner. You'll see that in action, and then we'll get the turbo fitted and pretty much get the engine into a place where it's ready to then put back into the car. So we're not far off seeing that car and hearing that car start up for the first time. Very close. In the meantime, if you want to see more action on the TTS, don't forget to click on that subscribe button down here, click on the bell notification so you're notified whenever we release a new video. and we will see you next one or next week for the next one. Have a good week.